Tonight at 5, a normal summer.
Drum roll, please.
Colorado's governor boasts about a rapid vaccine rollout, promising a return to normal in a matter of months.
We can avoid overwhelming our hospitals, avoid another wave in Colorado, and be prepared to fully enjoy what Colorado has to offer very soon.
This afternoon, the White House does the governor one better.
We're now on track to have enough vaccine supply for every adult in America by the end of May.
Plus, a Colorado lawmaker steps down after shirtless selfies with weapons go viral.
And some Dr. Seuss books are pulled from the shelves.
First tonight, we are waiting for an update on breaking news tonight about a missing girl. Any minute now, the Douglas County Sheriff is expected to address the disappearance of 12-year-old Catherine Gould.
Gould left her home in Parker around 8:15 a.m. from Mammoth Heights Elementary. She never arrived. We are expecting this press conference to begin at 5 o'clock sharp. As soon as it begins, we will take you there.
About 3 weeks ago, we were able to say that we'll have enough vaccine supply for adults by the end of July. And I'm pleased to announce today, as a consequence of the stepped-up process that I've ordered and just outlined, this country will have enough vaccine supply, I'll say it again, for every adult in America by the end of May. By the end of May. That's progress.
Also breaking this afternoon, President Biden promises vaccine doses for everyone who wants them by the end of May, as supply is finally catching up to demand.
Pfizer and Moderna have increased capacity to produce vaccines. Johnson & Johnson's vaccine is finally making its way to states, and now Merck, a longtime Johnson & Johnson rival, will begin producing the J&J vaccine.
And Colorado Governor Jared Polis said Colorado hit an important vaccine milestone over the weekend. 70% of people over the age of 70 have gotten at least one dose.
That 70% over 70 is critical. State health leaders say hospitalizations among people over 70 have gone way down since the vaccination rollout began. People over 60 can start getting the vaccine on Friday.
Now, of course, there remain hiccups in the supply chain. Colorado will get some doses of Johnson & Johnson's vaccine this week. But according to the White House, we won't be getting any additional Johnson & Johnson doses until the end of March.
If we're in a position where we get 400,000 doses, which we hope we will be by the end of March, early April, we will use all those within a few days, within the week that we receive them. They don't do any good sitting on shelves. We need to use them to end the pandemic, return to normal, save lives, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
So by this time tomorrow, 500,000 Coloradans will be fully vaccinated. That is almost 9% of our state. 31,000 doses were given yesterday. Meantime, Texas is preparing to reopen. Today, Texas Governor Greg Abbott said that all businesses are back open at 100% capacity beginning next Wednesday.
Everybody who wants to work should have that opportunity. Every business that wants to be open should be open.
And Governor Abbott also announced he would be lifting the state's mask mandate. Mississippi followed suit shortly after.
That Texas decision goes directly against the CDC. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, the CDC director, said this week that COVID cases rose in the United States last week for the first time since mid-January.
I remain deeply concerned about a potential shift in the trajectory of the pandemic. At this level of cases with variants spreading, we stand to completely lose the hard-earned ground we have gained. These variants are a very real threat to our people and our progress.
Those warnings have not slowed down school districts across the state, many of whom are eager to reopen. This evening, the Dougco School Board is presenting its plan for a full return to in-person learning for middle and high school students. The proposal calls for 5 days a week in a classroom. The board is looking at making the switch after spring break. Students who want to stay remote will be able to stay remote. That meeting started just a few minutes ago. If anything is decided, we will let you know on the denverchannel.com and on Denver7 News at 10.
In about an hour, Aurora City leaders will finally be able to ask questions about the independent investigation of Elijah McClain's death. City councilors received the report last week, but Mayor Mike Kaufman decided there wouldn't be enough time for City Council to ask questions, and he set up a separate Q&A session, and that's tonight. Elijah McClain, as you know, died after being put in a carotid hold and given ketamine during an encounter with Aurora police. Officers thought he was acting suspicious. Well, APD leadership later admitted Elijah McClain should not have been arrested. Individual counselors tell Denver7 they plan to ask about the EMT's use of ketamine. They also want to talk about new laws that could prevent a similar tragedy in the future.
This afternoon, Denver7 was the first to confirm the arrest of a 70-year-old Colorado man in connection to the death of these two women in 1982. Bobby Joe Oberholzer and Annette Schnee went missing on January 6, 1982 in Breckenridge. Both were later found shot to death. The case was cold from 1983 until last week, when Alan Lee Phillips was arrested in connection to that case. We are expecting to learn more tomorrow when Park County deputies hold a press conference about that arrest.
We are finally getting a sense of how the winter weather over Valentine's Day weekend might impact your natural gas bills.
During the cold snap, natural gas wholesale prices were 100 times higher than usual, according to documents filed by Xcel Energy with the state of Colorado today. The utility says it wound up paying for some of the jacked up natural gas, and now they're looking for a way to pass those costs on to consumers.
Xcel's letter to the state says the utility wants to charge natural gas customers, quote, less than $7.50 per month over the next 2 years to cover the costs. Xcel is also seeking federal assistance. Now, this plan has not been approved just yet. Last week, the Polis administration promised to stop Xcel and other companies from passing the cost of overpriced natural gas onto consumers. And that conversation is ongoing.
In a year full of complaints about customer service, Coloradans were most frustrated by the airline industry. The state attorney general's office said this week that they received more complaints about airlines than any other industry this year. Now, last year, we told you about repeated complaints against Colorado-based Frontier Airlines. Customers couldn't rebook travel after it was canceled by the pandemic. It got so bad, Colorado AG Phil Weiser asked for a federal investigation of Frontier's business practices. That hasn't happened just yet. 6 Dr. Seuss books will no longer be published, according to Dr. Seuss Enterprises.
It admits some of the famous author's books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong. Denver7's Ivan Rodriguez reports on what the change might mean for your child.
If you had to make a list of favorite books you read as a kid, chances are a Dr. Seuss book would be on that list.
I'm not sure if it's actually Dr. Seuss that people are emotional about or feel that sort of connection about, or whether it's really the comfort and the enjoyment they had of reading that with their mom when they were little.
Or the creative play on words and imaginative pictures on every page. Now many with these works are being questioned for their inappropriate and hurtful portrayals.
It's important to recognize sort of the full spectrum of his heritage and legacy, and part of that includes some very unacceptable depictions.
Some of these drawings made it into his books, like these from If I Ran the Zoo, or the author's very first children's book, And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street, both now on a list of 6 that will no longer be published by Dr. Seuss Enterprises.
I don't think it's upsetting, because I think a lot has changed in our society for the good.
This mother, daughter, and granddaughter represent 3 very different generations.
I read Dr. Seuss books, but at the time I don't remember any that I put away.
But now they, like many others, are looking for that same joy they once found in Dr. Seuss books with other authors.
We're huge supporters of our families having access to books in general, but also in particular, books that are written by and illustrated by authors of color, books that tell fully integrated stories.
But it doesn't mean these books are going away either. The Denver Public Library says in part, we don't plan to pull any Seuss books from the collection. Libraries across the country are having conversations around how to balance our core values of intellectual freedom with the harmful stereotypes depicted in many children's classics. The freedom of choice in what a person decides to read is here to stay, and so too is the value that reading brings to every child's development. Whether parents continue to choose Dr. Seuss will remain part of that decision. Ivan Rodriguez, Denver7.
Next at 5, too much help?
It just creates that animosity between counties.
Denver7 investigates the way counties spent their CARES Act money and finds one county spending far more than the rest.
They're going to be upset. There's another word I almost used, but I have to remember I'm on TV.
It's gorgeous now, but there is some snow before the end of the week.
And why some of Dr. Seuss's material is getting canceled by modern sensibilities.